Button. All right, cool. We're officially recording. And thanks again for all you guys that have joined us, all you attendees. And thanks to you, Casey, our lovely presenter today for this 30th ever knowledge drop. It's a big number. It's a milestone number. Very exciting for this. And honestly, it's on a topic that I feel like is weird we haven't covered yet, which is resume writing. And maybe it was, all this time coming because we found the perfect person to do it, which is you. And you'll share your background and your expertise in a moment. But just to do the ground rules really quick for you guys that have joined us, if this is your first knowledge drop or you just need a refresher on what's going on here, basically we're going to give the first 20 minutes or so to Casey to kind of go through her deck and share everything she wants to drop on you guys with you today. And then we'll hopefully have at least 5 or 10 minutes for question and answer at the very end. And while she's going, feel free to use this chat box that I just pointed out here. Make sure it's set to all panelists and attendees, and you guys can chat with each other or just compliment my hat and earpod combo or whatever you want to do in the chat box. And then there's also the question and answer box. I would definitely encourage you guys to use that if you have questions that come up that you just don't want to forget, because at the end I'll start there with the question and answer time. And as I pointed out, this is getting recorded, so it'll be added to our knowledge drop blog archive, which has all other 29 knowledge drops we've ever done in it already right now. And then this one will be added shortly after. So you can share this, you can watch it again or share it with any friends that bring up like, oh man, my resume is totally out of whack right now. Like, what should I do? You can just send them this link and then Casey will have all the answers for them. And I'll stop rambling and I'll pass it to you, Casey.
All right, great. Thanks, Trav. Thanks for the lovely intro. So I will not be able to see the chat box as I get going. So Trav, feel free to interrupt me and we will go from there. So.
I'll keep an eye out for you.
All right. Let me know if you can see my screen okay.
It's perfect. We got
That'll
you.
Be good. All right. Guys, welcome to Knowledge Drop number 30, resume writing. Resume being your most important document. So what's about to drop? We are going to talk everything resume is the good, the bad, the ugly, some examples and tips and recommendations. And we will also review incorporating remote year into your resume. Why am I dropping it? I am a human resources professional. I'm PHR certified. I have over 8 years of recruiting experience, and I founded my own resume review company. I think in total, I've reviewed literally thousands of resumes, so I've seen them all. I was also on remote year program number 4, Magellan, proud jelly, and I work for remote year as staff on the people operations team. And I do just want to say as a disclaimer, this presentation is by Casey Carr-Jones and not by remote year. It doesn't speak to remote year's recruiting process or anything like that. And it's really more about my personal experience in HR and recruiting in the pharmaceutical and financial services industries, which is my background. Okay, so how does recruiting work? What's the process? Someone opens your resume, you've applied, and they're using an online tool on their computer, and they're pulling up your resume. It might be a recruiter, it might be a hiring manager or HR, and they're looking at it for less than 30 seconds. And honestly, 30 seconds is a super generous number. I know in my experience that I'm looking at resumes, and I kind of know in the first 10 seconds if I'm going to keep looking at it or not. It might extend to 30 if I'm kind of intrigued and I'm still reading, but if it's a no right off the bat, it's a flat out no. So what happens to those no's? So if someone looks at your resume, you get 30 seconds, you get that shot, and then it kind of goes into a black hole. A lot of companies legally need to maintain resumes and applications, depending on the country. I know the US is 3 to 5 years, something like that, depending on the state as well. But depending on the organization, they might not go back through and look at your resume again. Some companies have a really advanced database of records and can pull back, and a lot of them don't spend the money on that. Bottom line, you can't take that chance. You really need to make the good impression in the first 30 seconds so your resume doesn't get dropped in that black hole where bad resumes go to die. Okay, so basics. What is a resume? Well, I get a lot of questions on what's a resume and what's a CV. They are 2 different documents. So a resume is a more concise document, doesn't necessarily have to cover your whole career, and you can customize it for applying to a position. So the intended reader shouldn't dwell on it very long. It should be easily scannable, and the person who's reading it should have an immediate understanding of who you are, what you know, and what you've done. Really 1 to 3 pages max. versus a CV or curriculum vitae, which is a more in-depth, exhaustive document, which covers your whole career. It covers education and your experience. It covers any awards, certifications, trainings, publications, presentations. It's more static, and you're going to be adding to that as your career develops. So it's not a bad idea to maintain both. So you have a CV, which keeps you keeps a record of all of your jobs, even including things back to high school and internship, which you probably don't need on your resume at this point, but at least you have a record of it for the future. Okay, so let's talk about what makes a bad resume. Let's get into the bad piece first. So I do want to note that styles and formats are very subjective, and they definitely change across different cultures. So for example, international resumes that are not in the US usually contain a picture of the applicant. Some countries, for example, India, it's very common to have height and weight. People might put any like social security, like whatever country's version of that on there. But for example, in the US, you really don't want to have a picture on it because it could lead to some discrimination issues. There are also different styles and format opinions depending on the industry. So if you're more in a digital marketing role, you might want to show your graphic design work on your resume versus something like a corporate accounting position where that's not super necessary. But in general, what makes a bad resume? If I can't tell who you are, what you've done, and what you know in 30 seconds of looking, it's a bad resume. You need to hit me in the face with that information. All right, so what are some things that make it hard to see that? One is paragraph formatting. This is a big no-no that I've come across for me personally and almost all the hiring managers I've worked with in my career. Gigantic paragraphs make it very difficult to read. So again, imagine a recruiter or a hiring manager, and they're sitting down in their work day, and it might be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they need a coffee and they're exhausted, and they have to go through a stack of 50 resumes, and you're number 44. And it's just a block of text. That's very difficult to read. It's hard to pull out what your qualifications are in that kind of formatting. So I always recommend using bullet points. Really streamlines your thoughts, identifies the heavy hitters at the top, and allows for someone to scan it quickly. Okay, and we're going to go through an example of that in a little bit. Another quality that makes a bad resume is what I call wonky formatting. If I'm looking at a resume and there's multiple bullet point formats, different fonts, different font sizes, inconsistent alignment, and it's not clean, you're going to be passed over. It can't be a big mess. Again, this is about easily scanning the document and pulling out the key information, your areas of expertise, your main responsibilities in your previous job, your transferable skills. If I can't find them and I'm distracted by poor formatting, I'm going to move on. And another piece that I actually see this all the time, is an incorrect objective. So I gave an example. If you're applying to my company at Funhouse Incorporated, but your objective statement at the top of your resume says you want to work for Crazy Condos LLC, we have a problem. You didn't proofread, you didn't pay attention, and you didn't take care when applying to this role. And so this kind of highlights everything else about a bad resume. If you don't take the time to clean up your document and you're sloppy, I can only expect you to be sloppy on the job. A lot of people subscribe to the notion that how you perform your job search is how you're going to act on the job. And so you just want to keep that in mind with having a clean document showing your best work. So here's an example. This is a real resume. I've redacted the person's personal information, but you can see that this is just a block of text. So if I'm the recruiter and I need 100% to know that this person has worked with graphics design to design brochures, for example. That is the one thing. If they don't have that, I'm saying no. I can't find that on this resume. It's so difficult. It is in there. It's in the second block, campus division. It's down. Like I can't find it. And so if I can't find that really quickly and easily, I'm going to move on, even though this person is qualified based on the job description I just made up. Okay? Another example, this is another person, and he's got some bullet points highlighting the top relevant experience at the top. And okay, extensive knowledge of Pennsylvania's Treasury Department. wait a second, Pennsylvania, you worked for the PA's Treasury Department and you spelled the company and you spelled the state wrong. We're going to have a problem. I've had so many hiring managers come back with resumes. I print them out for them, sometimes old companies, old fashioned, and they give them back to me with a red pen and they highlight punctuation errors, grammar, spelling, and it's a no. It's a quick spell check. It's a quick review, and it is an automatic no. So just watch for that as well. This is another example. This person, clearly defined objective, pulls out the abilities right at the top. So that's great. If I'm looking for someone trained in HIPAA, works with Microsoft Office, someone who's going to be on the phone a lot. Okay, good. I can see that she summarized that. So it's 1 page? No, it's 2 pages. It's that's just 1 line references. We don't even need that line, first of all. And you couldn't format it so it fits on 1 page. This is also a pet peeve of recruiters. Again, this might seem like really small stuff, but I'm going back to the point that this is one of the most important documents you're going to ever have, especially in your adult life. So you need to make sure it's perfect. Okay. So let's talk about, that's some bad examples of bad resumes. Let's talk about some resume best practices and go over examples for all of these. So basics. Number 1, you're highlighting your transferable skills. Transferable skills are skills and its knowledge and its abilities of tasks that you know how to do based on your current or previous positions that directly relate to the job description and the role that you're applying to. So let's use the example. I am a kid's birthday party clown. This is a weird example, okay? We'll go with it. So I'm a birthday party clown, and I know how to make balloon animals, and I can play the kazoo. And I find a role online. I'm on LinkedIn, and they're looking for a birthday party clown. They need balloon animals, kazoo, and magic tricks. And so I'm looking at my resume and making sure very clearly they know that I do 30 balloon animals per party. I can do exotic creatures as well, like dragons. I play the kazoo. I play 30 songs in the kazoo, and I know how to do card tricks and basic magic. And so I want to highlight and make sure that that's aligned with the job description to which I'm applying. So the person could say, kazoo, got it. Balloon animals, yep, knows how to do it. Okay, you could just check, move it to the yes and get on that call for an interview. Another point, use bullet points. We've already talked about that. Again, formatting in a clean way, making sure that it's easy to scan. You're going to want to sort chronologically, so your most recent experience point comes first. And then you're going to want to sort those bullet points in order of importance based on the role to which you're applying. Again, I'm the birthday party clown, and they really want someone to play the kazoo, and I put that towards the bottom. I might want to pop that right at the top so it's impossible to ignore. And then finally, utilizing skills and keywords. There's a fine line between using too many popular buzzwords and just really hammering home that you know how to do pivot tables in Excel, or that you use this different application, or you have experience with a CRM tool, or anything like that. So you're going to want to make sure, and again, you're using the job to which you're applying as a good backbone to make sure, oh, this is a perfect dream job. I know how to do all these things. Does my resume show in similar language that I can do all these things? And another reason to use these skills and keywords and making sure you're not leaving too much out is that recruiters do power resume searches. So if you have your resume uploaded to Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, any of those common career sites, I'm a recruiter and I can type in, I'm looking for a birthday clown in the New York metro area who can make balloon giraffes and whatever else. All of those keywords, knows how to use Excel, is proficient in PowerPoint, whatever your specific area of expertise, and then I can find you. But if you don't have those keywords in your resume, they're not going to find you. So make it easier. You'll get those requests and emails and people reaching out to you. And that does happen. That's how I found a job before. So someone reached out to me just because I had the right words on my resume populated in Monster. Okay. So here's an example of a resume that I would consider fairly strong. We have right at the top a summary sentence. This person is highlighted relationship management, full cycle membership expertise, and strategic leadership. So those are her 3 key areas of expertise that I would expect to correlate directly to the job to which she's applying. I can see her professional experience very clearly, and I can pop down and look at her special skills and education very quickly. Okay, so it's just an example of something I would consider easy to read. Right. So, remote year. How do you talk about it on a resume? It's such an awesome thing. How do you bring it up? You want to talk about it. I always do. So let's talk about why it's a good idea to incorporate remote year into your resume. First is that it really serves as a unique aspect of your experience. It makes you memorable. It's something unique, pulls you apart from the crowd, and it's pretty interesting. It's a cool thing that we're doing here. Second, it shows your involvement in a startup. It demonstrates flexibility, adaptability, and cultural sensitivity. And depending on if you're applying to a job at a global organization, this is going to help. Indicates an improved sense of self-awareness, shows your emotional intelligence. It emphasizes community and collaboration experience. And pretty much bottom line, it's a conversation starter. People love to talk about travel. If you haven't figured that out yet, you will. So how? We know the why. It's great to throw in your resume. How and where? Here's 3 examples. And definitely feel free to take a screenshot of this if you're watching this and just steal the language. Go for it. One way to do it is throw it right at the top in your summary section. So you can say, for example, I'm using this birthday clown thing a lot, but I like it. So I am a dynamic professional children's birthday party clown skilled in balloon animals and kazoo. Traveled with remote year, program of 40 digital nomads who work and travel the globe, 12 cities in 12 months, right at the top. Another way to do it is throw it in your experience section. So whatever role that you have while on remote year, you can add it as a bullet point there. So if you are a freelance journalist and you put in all of your information and examples of articles and your tasks and responsibilities, and another bullet point is currently a participant of remote year. And you can add it that way. And the third way you can incorporate remote year to your resume is a little bit more towards the bottom. Commonly, people include an interests or additional skills, memberships, or hobbies section. And you can throw it in whichever one of those you choose. So additional skills or interests, member of remote year and the year, and a little bit of an explanation of what it is. Okay, so again, feel free to screenshot this if you want to throw it on your own resume. And that is it. We have a lot of time for Q&A if we want to go a little bit more individually into questions about your resume or anything more about the remote year experience.
Lovely. First, I'll just come off mute and clap for you. Nobody else can do that. But it was very well done. Thanks, Case. And
should I stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, why don't you jump off screen share and I can go back to just close-ups of our faces.
All right.
Like that. Beautiful. And then, as I mentioned before, guys, feel free to either, we'll use the question and answer box for any questions you have, and I'll go through them that way. I have a few that we can start with, but so the one that I think maybe just from my college experience and like the way that I first created my resume and what was ingrained in me was very much to keep it on one page was like the thing that I remember just being hammered into me. And you kind of touched on like how when it spilled over to 2, but then you also had on the other side, like for resume, it's like 1 to 3 pages. So basically like what is your general overarching idea around like how long is too long and like, I don't know, how to format it in the sense of number of pages?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the rule of thumb for a resume is 1 page per every 10 years of experience as a general rule of thumb. You can go over the one piece is if you're very light on experience, if you're only a couple years out of college, the 1 page is the really big hitter there. For example, I would see a lot of college grads with only internship experience and they'd have a resume that was 3 pages, and that's just not really necessary at that point in your career. So 1 page per 10 years of experience, and just make sure that the quality of and the content quality is pretty high. And you're not just like flubbing and adding extra fluff, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. We have a couple questions coming in. I'm going to ask my second one that I had in my brain just because I'm curious about this.
Perfect.
The other one I was thinking about is like you mentioned to keep things chronological, which obviously makes sense. I'm just wondering, are there any times that you kind of like forego that rule? Like say, for me, I used to work in the nonprofit sector with kids. and I did like a lot of after school programming stuff, but I also did some like in-home, like ran a group home. So say like the next job I was applying for was a group home gig, which is kind of different, but the group home experience was kind of buried in my history. Would I pop that to the top, or would I leave it chronological, or how would I go about that?
My recommendation for that is to create a separate section. And that can be, if you're looking to kind of, if you're jumping around and you want to go back to something, have a little bit of a career change, your first section is relevant experience, related experience, and you pop that there. And then the second section below is additional experience.
Or like work history, and it's like action.
Exactly.
Okay. That's why we have you here, for answering all these questions. Beautiful. So thoughts, Dana's asking, do you have any thoughts about like an ask me about section? And do you see that coming out in resumes right now?
I do see that a little bit more on less corporate resumes. I kind of see there's kind of like two styles of resumes. One is a little bit more corporate and formal, and one is a little bit more casual and for more startups, for younger companies. I haven't seen too much of an ask me about section, but again, that would definitely not be for the formal corporate section. I think people would be confused on that.
Okay, cool. We have a bunch of good questions coming in, actually. I told you, I was like, we're going to have questions, so hopefully we have at least 10 minutes for that.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of volunteer experience and want to transition into a career, but haven't actually been paid like professionally in that sort of realm, what can you do on your highlight to like, or on your resume to start to highlight that experience and actually transition from the volunteer stuff into pay for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're saying you have volunteer experience in a certain area and you want to get a paying job in that area. Yeah. Again, I would go back to just breaking it into sections. So the first section at the top would be related experience, and you would do volunteering right up there, or you can just start with a volunteer section if this is super related, if you're going to a nonprofit. And then you can hit your work history below. I think that would work great.
Like I practice being a clown in my room all the time, but nobody ever pays me for it. So
exactly, I do volunteer work for.
Constantly volunteering as a clown, and I finally want to get a gig.
Right.
I love that example. So our very own Rose is asking, what are your thoughts? And I have the same question, Rose. So thanks for putting it here. But yeah, what are your thoughts on like the designy type resumes? So even if you're not applying for a design type job, but just, do you think that's kind of a trend that I feel like I've noticed a bit, but people using Canva or other sort of design templates to put their resumes out in the world. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think the main key there is the design should not take away from the content. The focus is always on the content. If the design makes it easier to read, if it makes it easier to highlight those areas of expertise, then that's fine. I wouldn't go overboard. I wouldn't go too crazy with colors or anything, but I think like a clean design that's a little bit more colorful, perhaps structured in a different way instead of this standard Word document, totally great. Again, not for super corporate jobs. Still not okay. They want the black and white. They like Times New Roman. It's a little bit more boring. So again, having multiple versions of your resume, I think I have like 20 versions of my resume right now. Some are designy, some are not. And then I look at the role and the company and I'm doing the research and I'm on their website and I make that call which version of my resume is going over.
That's a great piece of advice, like just to know your audience, like know who, like make an imaginary person who's probably going to be on the other end of the desk receiving your resume and what they'd be into.
Yes.
Great. So, Rose has another great question. We didn't really cover that, Rose. So what's the difference in your mind in terms of what you should have on your LinkedIn and what you should have on your resume? And should they be sort of mirror images of each other, or how do you break that down?
Yeah, so my recommendation for LinkedIn is once you clean up the content on your resume, it's super easy to just paste that over. However, where LinkedIn is a little bit more fun is that it makes it more casual and they have a really great summary section and a headline, both of which should be first person. My name is Casey and I like to do this, and can be more fun. So they should never conflict your resume and your LinkedIn because people do look. Recruiters check that sometimes. But you have a little bit more flexibility and space in LinkedIn to have a little bit more fun with it and talk about your likes. And that's also a great space to talk about remote year and your travels. I saw a quick thing right at the top. I just want to address when you're submitting your resume to a job application, Word or PDF 100%. Always PDF, because number one, Word gets funky, and when it's uploaded into these applicant tracking tools, it might jumble things up. I've seen it happen, or it might kick it on and make it 3 pages instead of 1, things like that. PDF, you know what you're sending, they're going to see exactly what you see. So that's my recommendation. And no one can go in and doctor anything.
Yeah, it's true. Cool. And people are asking too, like, about the objective statement. Is that like 100% necessary, mandatory for every job, or do you think it's just a nice to have, or how do you see that?
Yeah, if you're not comfortable with an objective, say you're just kind of looking for, you're not sure where you're headed with your career, you just want to update your resume in general, what I like there is a 1 to 2 sentence summary statement. So pretty much, like, for example, mine says like a dynamic HR, like personable HR professional with over 8 years of experience in recruiting, benefits, employee relations, and coaching. Just like what is one sentence about you? So tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Your one line heavy hitter that can go right at the top. It doesn't have to go there at all. But if you just want to summarize who you are, so it just makes it easier, and kind of, if your resume jumps around a couple different careers and you have a really strong statement of why, an explanation of who you are, that's just a good space for that.
And you're kind of on the subject right now. Do you have any advice for like how somebody could start to like think about formulating their own objective statement? Is it just like think about what you're best at, or like do you have any advice?
Yeah, I would say look at your 3 main areas of expertise over your career. What are the 3, if you know how to do 3 things, what are you best at? Your knowledge, your skills, your abilities from your career. Those are the 3 things that should be in your summary objective statement. And then a couple adjectives. I always like to throw in a little bit of an adjective. So people, are you loyal? Are you reliable? Are you super energetic? Are you outgoing? What is something that describes you as well and gives a little more personality to your resume? That can go up there.
Beautiful. So we have a random thought from Rose coming in. If you've used the Muse in the past for all things job searching, you find the content.
Yes.
Also the Muse.
+1 for if you Google the Muse and type resumes, they have tons of samples and examples. I actually use a lot of their stuff as well. They have great interview prep, good cover letter pieces, follow-ups. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Rose, for that little piece of advice. And
one thing from Christina, when do you submit a CV versus a resume? So when you're requested specifically for a CV, that's when you would submit it. Otherwise, the resume is fine. If they're specifically stating a CV. Also, Europe is big on CVs, and they'll ask for one. So that's a little bit more appropriate.
That was just coming to mind. Like, is there a resource like the Muse or somebody else that kind of helps break down, like, when applying in certain countries, what is more standard? Because like you made a great point earlier about like in the US, it's very much like a no on putting pictures on. But like I've seen a lot of resumes in other countries where the picture's like pretty common, and it would maybe be weird to not include a picture. But is there a way to kind of see like what the standard etiquette is across different nationalities?
Yeah, I can't think of any specific articles, but I think if you check the Muse, and also Google's your best friend if you type that in. So there's a ton of articles to wade through, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say we can continue this conversation in the resume Slack channel, because we have our own various Slack channel for resumes now, which is great.
Yes. Any other questions, throw them on the resume Slack channel, and I will reply, and it'll be fun.
Cool. Thanks everybody for being here, and thank you, Casey. That was awesome and super informative. And like I know knowledge drops are great when it feels like 5 minutes went by and they're over, but we're already past 5:30, so probably get out of here and let everybody get back to their days. Thank you guys for joining us. And we'll do another one of these in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Trav.
See you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.